I love reading military history, and I'm always on the lookout for good books on different aspects of military history. And of course, I like more recent books that look at the latest research on what took place in a particular war or a particular battle. But it's also interesting, very interesting, to look at the writings of people who participated. Now, that can happen on the level of the infantry soldier or to the highest leaders in the military. I was pretty happy when I came across this book in a used bookstore, Achtung-Panzer by Heinz Guderian. And if you're familiar with the Second World War at all, and if you're not, by the way, check out my Second World War podcast, and then you can get up to speed on the Second World War. But that's a freebie. Heinz Guderian was one of the top panzer generals in the world in the First World War, in the Second World War. But this book was actually written before the Second World War, just before. It was actually published in 1937. So the Second World War technically started in 1939. So you're getting a picture of what Heinz Guderian was thinking about tank warfare 2 years before the Second World War. Now, I accidentally said First World War there a few moments ago, and there's a reason for that, is because a lot of this book is actually on the First World War. Tanks were first introduced in the First World War, and people did not know what that was going to be like. And one of the great things in this particular edition had some interesting pictures, and we certainly have come a long ways from tanks like that. That's pretty different. But Heinz Guderian, he looks at the tactics that were used, at the background of how tanks even were introduced into combat. And one of the things that's very interesting is it's the French and the British who were really behind this. And the Germans were very slow to jump on board tank warfare. And they only had very few tanks in the First World War. And they had almost no anti-tank warfare. And so it's really interesting, first of all, to get a description of the First World War from the German perspective, seeing the Allies as being the enemy. And so he shares a lot about that. But he definitely is willing to give credit to the British and the French when it's due. And so it is a great perspective. And then he dives into how Germany was working through its technological development when it came to military equipment after the Versailles Treaty, which limited what they were allowed to do. And so it gives a lot of insight into that. But one of the things that I did not expect to really like about this book is it gives insight for people, even if you're not huge into the First World War, the Second World War, or military history. It gives insight as to how organizations can just misread the change of technology and perhaps even refuse to get on board. And he has some pretty strong words for his German colleagues who didn't see the potential for tanks in the First World War. And of course, Guderian ended up changing that in the Second World War. He used it to great effect in Blitzkrieg tactics, and he was certainly a master at that. He learned the lessons that the Germans how they made mistakes in the First World War. So anyways, if you're interested, I'm going to leave a Amazon affiliate link in the show notes, and if you're interested in buying this, you can click on that and buy it from Amazon, and I get a little bit of financial support by you doing that. So thank you, and God bless.